Okay. But you're finding out about events? Is that how you found out about this? Okay. Good.
Hello, is this working? Hello. All right. Hello. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Awesome. Okay. We're going to let everybody file in who's been waiting out there. They'll come out in front. My name is Jennifer Strozier. I'm the Goochland County co-chair of the Democratic Committee. Last Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday, we had all been, a lot of the local committees in the 5th District have been calling and writing and emailing John McGuire to see if he would show up for a town hall. I have a call log, 16 phone calls I made since January 20th, saying, when are you going to come tell us the impact of your fabulous new administration on the 5th District? And I got all kinds of answers. I got, well, our office is in Lynchburg. Oh, we don't have a phone there. We're setting up a phone. We're going to have office hours. No, we're not. I set up 3 different meetings for DC. Never got a call back about those. And so we kind of got sick of it and decided, why don't we get together with our neighboring counties and put on our own town hall. And we'll invite John McGuire because he lives 15 minutes from here, 5 minutes from my house. And we thought, we'll just invite him. And we put it on his social media. We said, come on, John, come on down. I have the letter that I sent to his scheduler, just in case you think we're, sabotaging him. I have the letter that I sent. It was very, very nice. Please come down. It's 15 minutes from your home. Or you can also send down one of your staffers. We just want these questions answered. And they're very simple questions. What is the impact on the 5th District of Doge and Trump and John McGuire? Simple. I can go and find out that information. I found out because that's what I had to do. So here we are, and I don't think John McGuire is in the audience. And is he anywhere? Anybody see him under the there? Anywhere? I don't see him anywhere. We're going to give him a few minutes, but I'm going to go around. We have some fact-checking things on the walls. I just want to review them with you. We have some great posters that we love. One of the questions is, what can we do with all of the bad stuff that's happening? So first of all, the bad stuff that's happening. This is from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. It says, Virginia won't get expected $21 million from local farm food to schools food banks. $21 million. This is direct impact. I can do my little highlighted thing, my little art project here. This is McGuire. This is what he voted for. This is what we're going to have happen. And what this program is our agriculture depends on money from the government so that they can grow food that they then share with food banks and schools. This feeds our kids. This feeds people that are food insecure, and it also helps our farmers. They have to plan in order to grow their crops. And so what happened is they found out in January, oh my gosh, this is gone. This is going to be gone. In June, it's going to be gone. So that's one bad impact. We also have our Board of Education decimated, we know that. Our health care is going to get decimated. We're going to lose probably the Medicaid that brought 41, what was it? I don't know how many, big giant number of people were allowed to get health care because Virginia accepted the Medicaid. So Medicaid expansion, thank you. And so Medicaid expansion. One of the things they're doing, they're saying they're not affecting veterans. We're not affecting veterans. So when they remove Medicaid from the hospitals, and they say, all we're going to do, we're not going to take away your benefits, veterans. We're just going to have you go see your local doctor to get your veterans benefits, and we'll reimburse them, right? And we all know how much mental health care and anything but maybe a GP or a pediatrician is in our local area. Anybody know? We just had one of our best doctors here retire. Who do we go to? Where do you go to in Goochland for mental health care? Anybody? Any local mental health care practitioners here that we can go to get our mental health care, especially veteran specific? No. So that's a de facto way of cutting your budget. And then over here, people say they want to make America great again. And everybody's been saying, oh, maybe they want to go back to the 1950s. I think they want to go back to the 1850s. Yeah. Right? That's when people were enslaved, when women were property. And that's where we're going. And so I think what they're doing is they're taking women, people of color, enslaved people, imprisoned people, financially insecure. If you are financially insecure, you can still own a home and a car and be financially insecure and healthcare insecure. And that's who they're attacking. And then the big rich people get to do whatever, all that stuff. They don't have to pay as much taxes, and their money just keeps building and building, and they do nothing. And they get richer and richer and richer. Even if we tax them the way we did 40 years ago, their money keeps building, and we have to add to our little amount of money every day, going to work, working for them, and making them rich. And so they want to make sure that we have no money, freedom, rights, power, or opportunity, and they use our medical and our financial insecurity to control us. And that's it. And so when you say, why would they do this? I don't get, what's going on in Trump's head? It's because of that. They want to control us. And they want not only white men, but white men with money to be in power. And the rest of us just be so distracted trying to pay bills and feed our kids that we can't even think straight. So, last thing, and then we'll see again if maybe John has showed up. If you see him, let me know. So, it's up to us. Right? We know from the last vote that we can't quite rely on our elected officials in Washington. So it's up to us. You can boycott, write letters, postcards, call your representative. Here's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. And when people say, oh, that doesn't matter, if you write a letter, it doesn't matter, postcards don't matter, calling them doesn't, it all matters. Someone might get 1,000 postcards and then they get 1,001 and that's from you, and that's the one that they go, oh shit, I better do something about this. So what can we do? April 1st is the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. A horrible MAGA person is running against a woman who knows what it means to be an impartial judge. We can help there. And April 1st is also the Florida special elections. 2 seats, one held by Matt Gaetz, and the other one, I don't know, but they left office, and so they can fill those with 2 Democrats. It's a long shot, but this is our opportunity. You can make calls, you can make texts, you can write, and you can send money. All you have to do is Google Wisconsin, Florida, elections. What the hell can I do? They'll tell you. April 5th is hands off. You can go to this website, get a toolkit. We might do something here in Goochland. Maybe we'll have a parade, we'll have a festival, something to bring attention to this disaster. And Virginia is it in 2025. Governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, every delegate. You could be an election worker. We need people to work the polls. Work the polls, get paid. In Goochland, they're dividing it into morning and afternoon, so it's a much easier shift. I don't know about the other localities. You can greet voters at early voting, welcome them, get them excited to participate. You can get involved in the primary. May 4th is the first date, goes to June 17th, that's election day. Knock doors, make calls, donate, talk to your friends, talk to your friends, talk to your friends. All right, has anybody seen John McGuire? Anybody? Anybody? No. No. Have you seen John McGuire? No. I think he might have snuck in while we were talking. And let me see. There he is. Brought his helmet. He's got some of his sponsors: Target, Amazon, Tesla. I think he had a Made in Russia logo, but I lost it. He's wearing his Russian hat. He says, too bad farmers. Virginia won't get $21 million for local farm food to schools food banks, thanks to me. He says, I won't call you, but I do have Trump's cell phone number. He bragged about that in an article. I voted to increase the deficit by $173 billion and reduce Virginia Medicaid by $2.7 billion. And cut... what's that? Oh, and then cut $273 million for SNAP and child nutrition.
Bye-bye, rural broadband. Very great job. Bye-bye, rural broadband.
Yeah, and also bye-bye rural broadband. Thank you. All right, so we've got a full house. This is so wonderful. I know you all have had questions for John McGuire. I've got some right here we can ask. So what we can do is, if you have a question, you can ask a question. We can see if he'll answer. And I don't know if there's anything up here. But we also have some really smart, involved people from the community that can answer questions. Mike Pruitt is a supervisor from Albemarle County, and he knows the district. He knows this area very, very well. He's got a great story he can share too. And then he can help answer questions. We have Gloria Witt in the audience, who ran. Raise your hand if you are a chair or co-chair of a Democratic committee. Look around for your chairs and co-chairs. Make sure you sign up with them. And we also have these wonderful postcards. You can write a little note to John McGuire, a question or a note, your heartfelt wish, anything you want to know. And he lives, like I said, 5 minutes from my house. I will deliver these to his home. You can sign them or not. Doesn't matter. But he'll get the message. So yeah, why don't we start with some questions? Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, and okay. So I'm going to also give you some note card because we can't find them. So Mike, yeah.
Sure. Does this mic work?
Yeah, that mic.
Okay, good. Are you going to run that?
Does this work?
Yes.
Could you speak to the SAVE Act that just passed in Congress and what that means to everybody? The SAVE Act.
Sure. Help me out here. I'm not currently sitting in Congress.
This is about voting. Your name, your birth certificate. 34% of women have a different name and are going to be challenged at being able to vote.
Of course, right.
And it's going to the Senate now.
I don't think it's lost on anyone that. Can I actually? I think it's probably best if I have a mic real quick. Oh, there's one right. Oh yeah, sure. I'll hop behind here. Okay. I don't think it is lost on our opponents, on the Republican Party, that they cannot win with a natural majority. They cannot develop the actual kind of constituencies they need to be able to win in an outright fair and free election. So the Republican strategy for years, we've seen this over the past 2 decades, has been to figure out how to whittle down at the margins they have. Either cut down the number of people who can register, cut down the number of people who are going to make it to the polls, scare people so that they don't feel comfortable going to the polls. I've spent the last several months talking to a lot of people across this district, and the number of folks who are in historically black communities in the south side of this district who tell me, I am afraid that if we do not have mail-in voting or voting by car, a lot of my neighbors are too afraid to show up to the polls because it is so concerning out there that they are afraid of who will be making a note of who they're seeing, who will be intimidating them, who will be threatening them at the polls. That is just the simple facts of how the Republican Party has been maintaining their toe in government. And this is, I think, very clearly another effort of that. There is no clear, I think, justifiable end that's going to be served by this. What it will do is make it much harder for women, and especially married women, which we know disproportionately vote Democratic. It will make it much harder for them to be able to continue to easily vote at the polls. And it won't be because they're not putting in the effort. It'll be because that comes as a surprise, right? They go up and they're like, oh, we're going to need you to re-register. Oh, this is currently actually showing as an error in it. And then there's just not the time to correct that in the polls, right? It only takes the tiniest obstacles, right, to make it so that someone doesn't show up to vote. And this is just one more tiny obstacle designed to keep people away from the polls. I do want to before I go on to other questions, I realize you all just kind of had me thrusted in front of you, and I think a lot of people in the room don't know who I am.
Who are you?
Or why who am I? Why am I the person who is talking to you instead of John McGuire? Those are a pair of very good questions, and so I don't want to leave a pregnant pause in the air, so I want to answer that real quick. So my name's Mike Pruitt. I represent Albemarle County. Albemarle County is just east of here. It is the largest locality and the largest economy. Sorry, just west of me. I'm bad at my cardinal directions. A little dyslexic. It is just west of here. It is the largest locality, person-wise, and also the largest economy in the 5th district. It is. Oh yeah, of course. That would probably be better. I got a short cable. Really restricted. I originally grew up in a rural area in Appalachia. I grew up in a former mill town to a blue-collar family. I realized very, very early in my life that I was not going to be able to stay in the hometown that I had come to love, because there were not opportunities for me. There was not a career I could pursue in that town. And frankly, I'm a queer man. You might be able to tell in my voice, I don't know. I'm a queer man, and I didn't always feel safe in the place where I grew up. So I realized I was going to have to chart my way out there. I spent 8 years in the Navy, two combat deployments on ships, and then 3 years at the Office of Naval Intelligence in D.C. Then realized, I'm getting out of here. I need to actually figure out what I'm going to do next in my life. And I had seen, during my time in the Navy, I had seen, frankly, the really intense way every place I had been moved had been redlined and impacted by the scars of racial discrimination in housing. I felt a deep resonance with that from my own experience just finding housing as a military person. And so I decided I wanted to be a civil rights lawyer focusing on housing. And I was going to go to law school. I looked all around the country and saw in Albemarle County, in UVA law, I was like, this is a place that reminds me of the place I grew up. It reminds me of my small town in Appalachia, but it's a place I actually had opportunities. It's a place I actually feel safe as a queer man. And that really excited me. I got really involved in local government. I ran for local government while I was still in law school. And now I practice civil rights law and housing discrimination at Furman Richmond. And I serve my county. I'm really thrilled by that. But I also recognize the incredible kind of privilege I have doing that work, because most of the 5th district looks like my small town in Appalachia. Looks like that failed mill town where people don't have an opportunity. It does not look like Albemarle County, where the average prevailing wage is 6 digits. I wish, right? And so, I also recognizing, frankly, Albemarle County, we're the biggest economy. We are very dependent on what is going on in the rest of this district. So I realized I need to get a better understanding of this district and how it's affecting my constituents and what is going on. So I've spent the last, frankly, since the new year, ping-ponging the district, talking with different local chairs, talking with different leaders about what is going on, what is it going to take to actually get this gentleman out of office in 2026, and because of that I've developed a little bit of expertise, not necessarily on what is going on in Congress, though I try. I've got 2 jobs, so I apologize, I'm not always immediately well read up as I might like for this moment, but hopefully being able to speak to the moment. And I will say the moment is severe, right? There are 2 things that have leapt out to me about John McGuire in Congress, and both of them frankly surprised me. I expected better. The first thing is that the man governs like he got into Congress on a Make-A-Wish. He is there as a fan. This is a reality show that he is really excited and has seen on TV for a long time. And now he's just so excited to be able to get selfies with all his favorite characters from TV. He is not there to lead. He is there to enjoy being in the mix. He is there like he's going to a convention. And that's not someone who is ready to meet the moment. The other thing, the man's a SEAL. I expected a certain amount of courage. Not on the issues I care about, frankly. Opposed to me, but I at least expected courage. And that is not what we've seen from McGuire. And I'm not just talking about the fact that he's not coming out and, this was a setup. We didn't expect him to come out. But not just that he's not coming out to meet you, but everything he has done in Congress has showcased a profound lack of fundamental courage. Who here was on the telephone town hall?
Yeah, look at that.
On the telephone town hall, McGuire told y'all that, the word Medicaid isn't in the budget resolution. That's what he told you, which is factually true, and is also utter cowardice, because either he's an idiot, which I don't think that's the case. Either that, or he knows that it's going to necessarily cut Medicaid, and he just isn't willing to cowboy up and tell you to his face. The second bill he introduced as a patron was to add uranium to the critical minerals list because this district, and specifically Pennsylvania, has the largest load of uranium in the country. It is the largest unmined uranium load. It is unmined because it cannot be mined safely without killing thousands of acres, poisoning our sons and daughters for generations, right? There's a good reason it's not mined. And he added it to it, and he said in his second public statement about it, please note that this does not do anything to get rid of the Virginia ban on mining, which is true. But also, then why did you do it? He is obviously trying to make it so that it is able to be mined in the future, so that they can pull down the grants and the surveying work, that they will need to do that work. But he is not willing to cowboy up and recognize that he has an unpopular opinion or something that may offend people. He wants to pretend like he's for everyone. What's the one other thing he said during the town hall? Over and over, I counted at least 4 times, he told me that he loves me. This is one more piece of fundamental cowardice, because let's be honest, John McGuire doesn't love you. John McGuire doesn't love me. I'm a Christian. I taught Sunday school this morning. I don't think it is a fundamentally Christian and loving thing to win 1/4 of your locality, of the place that you are taxed by the government to represent, depends on Medicaid, will die without the care that they receive because of a government service. Cutting that service is not love. John McGuire is going to kill thousands of people in the 5th District because he is a coward and unwilling to stand up on Medicaid, unwilling to stand up on the services that make this district run. That's why I'm talking to y'all. That's why I'm here. And you waited so long, and I appreciate you.
Well, this is an opinion question. So
Yeah, I love it.
if the Democrats retake the House and the Senate, do you feel like they will impeach Donald Trump?
Boy, howdy, I sure hope so. He's done a lot of things that are awful unconstitutional. Right?
Will they have the courage, or whatever it takes, the cojones, in Texas, to impeach?
I think that's a great question. So I believe in fundamentally, as you might have gathered from my last statement, governing from a position of moral courage, right? You don't get elected to not exercise power, frankly, right? We say that like it's a gross, scary thing, exercise power. But the whole reason you enter into office is to make decisions that matter. And if you're constantly looking at the poll of, but how does this affect the next poll? You're not going to govern, right? The beautiful thing about this district is when you ever do get a dim in there, they're going to know their days are numbered. And so I hope they'll be able to vote their conscience consistently. So I would hope, yes, Donald Trump has consistently done radically illegal things. He is engaging in several crypto Ponzi schemes to directly self-enrich him and his family. He is engaging in both illegal and unconstitutional impoundment of congressionally allocated federal funds, right? It was already unconstitutional, and then we made a law to just clarify that it's unconstitutional. He still freaking did it.
And to clear and present danger to the United States of America.
He's a clear present. He is allying ourselves with historic enemies. He is a clear present danger. I shy away from the phrase existential threat, and I realize that's probably not a popular thing. But let me just suggest to you, this is going to feel very philosophical for a moment, so please just follow me for a second. We talk about January 6th sometimes and how crazy those people are, and that's true. But what I want to suggest to you for a moment is if you believed what they believed at January 6th, I should also just mention, that this gentleman was there, was a part of the insurrection. If you believed what they believed, that the election was stolen, I would suggest that was the correct course of action for them. That is, of course, not true. The election was not stolen, therefore it was a terrible act of violence against our country. But if we believe something is an existential threat, that demands certain quite radical steps. And I am not quite prepared to say existential threat, because I think the thing that necessitates for all of us from a moral level is more radical than anyone is prepared to accept today. So long as we still believe we can vote and that we can elect people who aren't Republicans, we can elect people who aren't Donald Trump, I am hesitant to call it an existential threat, but definitely a clear and present danger. He is a clear and present danger. He is actively committing crimes. He is actively flaunting the law, and that does require impeachment. That is not something I would feel shy about at all day one.
Thank you.
I also want to, we shouted out a lot of names in the crowd. I do want to give a quick shout out, Bilal Artuni, who is also running for the House of Delegates in several of the districts here. And his campaign manager is also here if you want to give her a shout out so that you can make sure you are helping do everything necessary to get him on the ballot. I actually lost her. She's right next to him. Yes.
Got a question. Thank you. Yeah, birthright citizenship. It's gone to the Supreme Court. They're going to decide whether to undo the pause and so forth. But an existential threat to this country is if the 14th Amendment is basically abandoned and birthright citizenship is disallowed. That's going to suppress the vote, millions and millions of votes. What's the Democratic plan? What's the fight? Thank you.
Again, I don't want to counter chickens before they hatch, right? I would be gobsmacked and terrified if the Supreme Court was not willing to hold that birthright citizenship is the obvious law of the land. That has been true since the founding. It has been supported in previous Supreme Court precedent. If it is not a unanimous decision, I will be writing letters. That is also not a very inspiring thing for me to be up here and say, right? That I'm writing letters. That is going to be the kind of thing that does demand radical direct action across the country. And I would hope that would be something that we actually could mobilize serious radical direct action across the country. And I don't know what civil disobedience looks like in that case. Does it look like people who have had their birthright citizenship denied attempting to vote? Does it look like people who have had their birthright citizenship denied denying what orders come from that? But that is kind of the level that I'm saying. If we're talking existential threat, I think we need to broaden our understanding of what resistance looks like. And the kind of resistance to something that would be that extreme, that fundamental to the identity of what this country is, would need to be similarly radical. Yes?
I apologize in advance for a slightly long question, but a little perspective. So, my wife and I returned here to retire about a year and a half ago. I remember riding into a bus in New York City in 2008, reading that Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers had collapsed. They are part of the private sector. My recollection is, in the 90 years that Social Security has existed, the United States government has not missed one single payment to anyone who deserved a Social Security payment. It seems to me what Trump and Musk are trying to do here, with McGuire's support, is to privatize Social Security and get rid of Medicare and Medicaid. Okay? Fundamentally, I paid into Social Security for 40 years, and every single one of my paychecks, so I'm sure everybody in here feels the same way. That is our money, not their money. We paid into it. So the idea of privatizing Social Security, who do you think is going to bail it out when that goes bad? The United States government again. What are we doing here? I guess my question is there a plan among the Democrats to figure out a way to stop this from happening? Because, that's a big part of my retirement, and I see a lot of people in here, and I'm sure that's a big part of your retirement planning. And then with regard to Medicare, I turned 65 in about a year and a half. I'm paying for my own insurance now because I retired a little bit early. The idea of having to spend $20,000 a year on private insurance was not in my financial planning. And I'm sure the same is true for all of you. So this is a big deal. And, I'm not hearing enough about it. I guess the question is, what can we all collectively do other than continue to call Mr. McGuire's office and say, "Your grubby hands off our money"?
I want to begin, and that's a great question. It's probably the biggest third rail of American politics, right? What are we doing about this critical entitlement that always feels like it's right on the cusp of insolvency? So I want to start by saying something a little unpopular, and I want y'all to follow me with this. And I'm going to push back on something you said. I worry that one of the biggest traps we've fallen into when Social Security was first developed, maybe many years ago. It was very much pitched as almost like an individual, personal retirement account, something that the government is taking your money, setting it aside, earmarking it for you. And that was, I think, very helpful for getting the political support it needed initially. I also would suggest it is not an accurate way to think about what Social Security is, and nor is it a helpful way in our current moment. Social Security is a fundamentally redistributive social safety net program. That is what it is. It is designed to make it so that we do not have old age homelessness in America, and it is designed specifically to help the poor elderly in our country. This is a problem that other countries have much more severely than us. Japan has far more homeless elderly people than we do, and they have developed, frankly, informal social safety nets because they don't have those. This, I think, limits our capacity for creativity on this. And I think the solution, when we think of it like any other kind of social safety net entitlement, is really clear. And this is something I know Gloria talked about when she was on the campaign, and that is, we have a billionaire and multimillionaire class in this country, and they pay in the same Social Security caps that the rest of us do. That is an insane thing, if we think about it. As a social safety net program. It almost makes sense if we treat it like an individual retirement account. Elon Musk can put in his measly little cap because that's his personal retirement account. But if we think of it as that's Elon Musk paying to make sure my grandmother doesn't live her final years on the streets, then that becomes insane. I also just want to say, from my personal professional experience, right? I'm a civil rights lawyer. I take complaints from people who are experiencing housing discrimination, and I try and seek justice for them. The most common form of complaint is disability. And the main reason for that is disability has a broad definition, and the elderly are normally disabled. So a thing that I see in my work constantly, are elderly people who have run out of social safety net and who are experiencing some form of discrimination. The thing that becomes so acute is how much, even with this really, I would say, innovative and important social safety net of Social Security, how much we are kind of just banking on community goodwill once we get past a certain age. And we are not developing innovative solutions on that. The idea of kicking out the one leg we have supporting this already very rickety table of elder care support in this country is unconscionable. It is insane.
So if I recall correctly, my memory isn't what it used to be, it started as an individual savings account, and Ronald Reagan, in order to balance the national budget, had it go into the general fund. So there you go, another Republican doing good for all of us.
It was still not an individual, so it was a separate fund that was paid out of the general fund. I think it is not helpful for us to think of it as my personal 401k, if that's clear. Do we have another question, Linda? Right here. Sure, of course.
Hi, good afternoon. My question is more about means than ends. Probably there's tremendous consensus in this room about ends. One second. Test. Yes. All right. Thank you. My question is more about means than about ends. Is that better? Yes. Thank you. My question is about means rather than ends. I suspect there's a pretty high degree of consensus in the room about most of the goals of the Democratic Party. When it comes to means, you have to think about money. Recently I looked at what money that was spent in the 2024 election cycle. On the Democratic side alone, I believe the figure when federal and state combined is around $10 billion. $10 billion, which is a mind-boggling amount of money going into elections? Really? My question is this: I look around, I live in Hanover County, I look around, I see these Tea Party signs everywhere. Those don't cost $5. Nobody got a cardboard and made that sign. I see these groups all over the country that are feeding the Hanover board and with their right-wing ideas. Somebody is paying for those organizations. I look at the way people get their news and see that there's a tremendous
Disparity.
Degree to which people have their opinions based upon the news that they're getting. And, of course, Fox News is the great evil in this regard. But even the so-called mainstream media doesn't really represent our point of view a lot of the time. And so why can't some of that $10 billion go to dealing with some of these problems directly instead of constantly pouring money into needless amounts of money into elections?
Thank you. That's a really good question. It was also a really long question, so I hope you'll indulge me with a somewhat long answer, because it touches on a lot of things that are fundamental to our democracy that I think we really need to talk about very frankly. So I want to begin with a big picture idea here. I think it's important to recognize we're in a historic moment. This is a historic inflection moment for the United States in history. This will be a critical chapter for generations in the future. And I think that would be true even if Donald Trump was never born. I think it is important that we recognize that we are in a period where there is actual rampant opioid and other forms of drug abuse across this country that are truly threatening people's lives. There are fundamental rises in fascism across the globe that are slowly seeping into our own politics. There are increasingly dangerous and militant authoritarian regimes that are weaponizing that. And I want to say, most importantly, in the United States, for my entire life, for the entire life, frankly, of most people in this room, since the late 60s, every single year, the returns on capital, as in the value of passive investors for the money they invest, have outpaced in growth the returns on wages. That means we have, since the late 60s, had the rich getting richer and the poor staying where they're at. That is the grand story of America in modern history. Capital is outpacing wages. The rich are getting richer. And we have not, as a Democratic Party, had a serious prognosis to fix that in a long time. And I think the issues that you're talking about are reflective of this. We are seeing less powerful media because the billionaire class is gobbling up media. We do not have local papers anymore because Lee Enterprises acquires them. We do not have local news anymore because they are tramped down by other forms of media that are held by a billionaire class. We don't have the Washington Post editorial section anymore because and that of course seeps into how our elections are done. We do not have reasonable, affordable, sensible elections because the billionaire class has bought enough Supreme Court seats that they were able to shove through Citizens United, and they were able to make it so that their voice counts more than anyone here. The voice of someone... The voice of a shareholder at BlackRock matters more than every single person in here combined. Matters more than our entire district combined, because he can buy his own John McGuire. He can buy 3 of them. They're not that expensive. And that is an embarrassment. That is a shame. The way that we have to counter that is we need to seriously develop people power. We need to develop community-led organizations to elect people. I hate the fact that it always comes down to telling people to vote harder, but actually build the kind of community networks. Get to know the person sitting next to you in the seat if you don't, right? Develop those kind of community networks, show up, exercise that kind of communal power so that we can start getting elected representatives who actually have a brass pair where they are willing to actually stand up against things like Citizens United. They are willing to actually stand up against the incredible billionaire capture of every single bit of American life. And we just don't have that. We don't have that from the Republicans because the Republicans are completely asleep at the wheel. They're not willing to defend their own appropriations. They're not willing to do anything. It is a party that is marked by those by the two elements I talked about McGuire, fandom and cowardice. That is the whole Republican Party. But it is also, disappointingly, frequently true with the Democratic Party. And I think that is the process of reinvention we have to begin. We have to do grassroots, we have to bring that energy, and we actually have to break the billionaire stranglehold that has on elections and on the entire taxation system, on every part of our lives.
I want to just get some words from you all, and kind of in the spirit of Bernie Sanders town halls. I'm just going to read a few. I want you to stay here. We need you. This is exactly what we need. We need people like this to run for office. So and answer our questions. So if you folks don't mind, some people gave me some of these. I'm going to read them because they really bring all this stuff home. So this is one. My daughter is graduating from UVA in May. She had offers to continue research at UVA Health Center that have been rescinded due to NIH budget cuts. Can you help protect health research and health professionals' careers? How's that? Yeah, clap for that kid. I mean, that's a kid that worked their ass off. Is everyone aware of the fund's $21.2 million to Central Virginia farmers? That is that up there, and we also have the actual original article there. Being cut. Yes. I own a farm in Hanover. The trade war is killing soybean markets, and tariffs are causing the price of essentials like fertilizer to go up. I'm ready for a tractor parade to D.C. Yes. Doggy, we call it Doggy now. If Doggy is finding so much fraud, why have we not heard about any arrests of those who committed the fraud? McGuire, stop dancing around the Medicaid issue. Will you vote for a budget which cuts it or not? Yeah. Here's another one. As a fellow veteran, why do you not give a crap about what they are doing to us? Trump did not release his taxes. Why should Musk and Trump know my taxes and finances? I like this one. Congressman, we will miss you at your town hall today. Sorry you've forgotten your way home. I've been really disappointed to learn all about your policy decisions and how they've reflected deep disdain for your fellow citizens. I hope you can find God's light. Who is going to check into waste caused by Elon Musk's company, which seemed intent on blowing up rockets, financed by taxpayer money? When is the Republican Party going to work for the American people and not Musk and Trump? Congressman, please, please, please be better. We have, so does anybody else have any stories that they want to share? Like where they, yes ma'am. Yeah, not so much questions. I want to hear how this impacts the people in this district, because this is going to be going out there into the world, and maybe John McGuire will see it. I want to hear from the people in the 5th District that are affected by these cuts.
Well,
It's easy for a lot of us in this room to realize that Trump wants me dead. And as a result, so does John McGuire. I just want to tell a quick story about John McGuire. I had an opportunity at some point to be with him one-on-one, and I caught him in the act of doing something wrong, and I called him out on it. And his response to me was, "Do you know who I am?" And so that's what I was thinking. But I looked at him and I said, "Do you know who I am?" Because you work for me.
Yes.
And I'm really tired of politicians who get elected and somehow become celebrities. And, you know, and instead of making them again and again realize that they work for us. Right.
Hamburger for Governor.
Thank you. My name is Peter Potts. The four of us do. We represent right now more than 800 people. Soon it will be 1,200, and then there will be more. Collect Social Security and is in some way dependent upon their Social Security checks. I talked with a man the other day who not only had tears in his eyes, they were running down his cheek. I'm going to have to move out if they take my Social Security. How can we be assured, Mr. McGuire, that you're going to stand up for us? I was just looking at my own work record. I started work when I was 13 years old. That means I've been paying into Social Security for over 70 years. What are you going to do to protect me and the others at Avery Point and other senior citizen centers where there are people just like us?
Yeah, I've got a story. Actually, it happened a few weeks ago. Hi. Once again, Bilal Ziri Shuni, running for the House of Delegates in the 72nd District. Thank you very much. So I also have the privilege and pleasure of being an educator across the water in Powhatan County as well. Thank you. And I also have the honor of running around with the Virginia Young Democrats and the Metro Richmond area Young Democrats that also represent Powhatan and Goochland. So this happened a month ago. It must have been a month now. President's Day, where the Metro Richmond area Young Dems went up to the state capitol to lobby the bills that we're in support of, right? To our delegates and to our state senators. Well, who should be there but my former state senator, John McGuire. Why? I still don't know. So I thought I'd ask him a question. Because this is actually my second time running. The first time I ran was in 2023, when he was also running to maintain this seat, right? So I said, "Hi, Mr. McGuire, I'm one of your constituents in a couple of different capacities, right? First as a state senator, and then as a congressman. I live in Powhatan." I told him, "No, thank you." So I said, "I have a question for you." He said, "Go ahead, man, fire away." I said, "All right. When you ran for the Senate in 2023, you swore up and down that you would not run for the U.S. House. You made it a foundation of your campaign that if you were elected to the state Senate, you would stay, and you would not run for the House. The election was held on a Tuesday. The results were announced on a Wednesday. You announced your next campaign on a Friday. Why did you lie?" Because to me, this smacks of hypocrisy. It smacks of something I know, right? Surprising everybody, sure. But and I'll end the story here. My father, who himself was an immigrant from Lebanon during the war at 17, who came over here for his own slice of the American dream, right? He always said you can either be something or you can want to do something. I would rather elect people who want to do the work than people who want to be a representative who don't want to do the work of representation.
Any teachers, parents, any other folks that feel like they can really feel that impact? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Please.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to go in a slightly different direction. I want to address the gentleman back here who's talking about means and how we're going to go about, or how McGuire, if you will, would go about protecting Social Security. We have to take the means into our own hands. And the uncomfortable thing that we're all going to have to do is we're going to have to talk to the Republicans across the fence. And we're going to have to tell our neighbors and the non-voters. We're going to have to tell our neighbors that Trump and Musk are trying to take our Social Security and their Social Security as well, and their Medicare as well, because we only have so many Democrats in this county, in this district. If we want to flip it, and if we want to protect our Social Security or Medicare, we got to get Republicans voting like we do or thinking like we do, and it shouldn't be that hard. You just got to talk to them. They're right on the other side of the fence. Hey, until Trump came down that golden escalator, I was a lifelong Republican, so I came over to the side.
My son was signing up to pay back his student loan and went online so that he could do an income-based payback. He's not making very much money. He's working his butt off in construction, and he would have to pay $300 a month, which is a lot of money for him. It would have reduced it to $2. He cannot go online and sign up to do an income-based repayment of his loan. That is one little thing they did. Oh, we haven't touched loans or student stuff. Yes, you did, because you have taken off so many things that people relied on. Seniors can no longer get on there online to deal with their Social Security stuff. You have to put a letter and your tax return in the mail and send it in. That's another way, a little tiny way. It affects everybody, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, people who vote and people who don't vote. Those are the stories you want to tell your friends. Try going online and getting help online with the government. You can't do it anymore. So I'd love to, more stories.
I have a question. It's more going back to what Mr. Pruitt was saying, that I have a real concern that if the Democrats do manage to retake the House and the Senate, we're going to go right back to what things used to be. I mean, you had one little point of leverage the other day, and Schumer rolled on it. And, the Democrats need to get in there, take care of the filibuster. They need to get rid of Citizens United. Fix that Supreme Court. And I'm not sure that they've got the will to do it. I think I can't imagine where the leverage came from, but it's like, and the Republicans know that. They know it. Democrats aren't going to do anything. They can talk all they want, but nothing's going to happen.
Not getting donations anymore. That's a
fight or resign. That's what I say.
So you need to take on the Democrats that really are not doing the will of the people.
Yeah.
And so.
Did I accidentally kill you? Yeah. I want to just quick, before I get the question, the comment I heard in the background. They're not getting donations anymore. I want to emphasize this real quick. Capital, money, wealth will always be a fickle ally to justice. They are not in it for the fight. They're in it to line their own pockets. And I feel like as a party, as a movement, as the liberal components of America, we are having to realize this, because during the first Trump term, right, we had money flowing into the ACLU. We had money flowing into these nonprofits. To fight him, Facebook lined up and brought forth resources to help put him, make sure he was not reelected. The wealthy were opposed to this. And now that they have seen that the tides are not shifting their way, money is a fickle ally. The wealthy are a fickle ally. And we are seeing that they are not going to keep lining up on the side of justice. And I think that means we have to be bold in taking power as a community for grassroots level politics. And yes. And that also, I think, plays in directly to the answer to this question, right? Schumer and the Democrats who joined him are cowards. I believe that. Democrats have been able to say with a straight face for the last 3 months, we actually have no constitutional power here. And that was true. We can still expect more from them, but that was true. Up until 2 days ago, when lo and behold, they actually did have leverage. They actually did have power. They actually could have sought concessions, extractions, political consequences for what's going on. And instead, what they did is they provided an out for the impoundments Trump is already doing. They provided for cuts to critical programs, and they rolled over. They rolled over. And I think they probably think they're doing the right thing. They are probably concerned about the actual substantive effects of a shutdown. That's probably true. And it was still cowardice. And that is the kind of cowardice that I worry has affected our politics. I said earlier, right? We are in a sclerotic age of American empire. We are facing so many crises, tiny crises that are eating away at everything about our identity and everything about our economy, and we have not been engaging them with the seriousness that it requires. And this is just one more element of it. We need a government, we need a party, we need people in Congress who are willing to engage with the capture of our country by billionaires as an existential crisis. Donald Trump is not the existential crisis. The power accumulated by the billionaire class in this country is the existential crisis. He is just one way that is coming to us now. But Donald Trump could die of a heart attack tomorrow, and it's still coming. It's still coming.
Can you guys hear me? Yes. Yeah. How many veterans are in here? Any veterans? With everything that was going on with Project 2025, and I've been following all the changes that have come with Project 2025 and what they have in store for us. You know, and there's a lot of fear about the impact that all of this is having on us with our health care, you know, with all our benefits, our disability benefits. You know, I'm 100% vet, total and permanent, you know, and I have Medicare. And I also work for the government, you know, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to take away from us. You know, and that's always been a third rail, you know, as far as touching veterans. But, you know, we have got to stay strong. You know, there's a group called Common Defense that's a bunch of veterans. I suggest you guys join that. We have calls. You know, follow Vote Vets. We need to keep current as far as what's going on. There's a lot of stuff that was in the CR that's anti-veteran. You know, but we, as hard as we fight, the things that they're doing to us, we get them to back off. And that's what we have to do. We have to fight like hell. Yeah. You know, so don't lose your focus. You know, I was really scared to get out there because, you know, I got a lot to lose with my getting out there, especially since I'm a naturalized citizen. I'm thinking, you know, I don't want to get deported. But, you know, it's gotten to the point where I don't care if you deport me, I'm fighting like hell. Let's keep current. Let's see what's going on. Don't stop fighting.
Everyone in this room is hearing how many these stories there are. We have the gentleman in the back who had said we need to be crossing the fence, we need to be having conversations with our neighbors regardless of their political affiliation. What does that conversation look like? It can't just be, I mean, I believe billionaires need to pay their fair share, but maybe that's not the first line of attack. Maybe we share these conversations, these experiences we all have, and you probably each have a dozen of them. My best friend, best man at my wedding, I was best man at his, lost his job almost immediately. He's a federal contractor. He's been working for decades to make the government more efficient. That was his job. He and his team of 20 people were furloughed and then fired. I have a lot of friends who are veterans. One of my closest friends is a mother. She is disabled. She receives her care for herself and for her child, her baby child, in part through the VA. and that is going to be threatened. She is facing longer lines. I have folks in my orbit who are active duty service members. There have been radical changes to how military moves are conducted under Trump that have made people's gear get lost. I have, there's a lot of people, a lot of, backseat pundits who are saying we should walk away from the trans issue because it's unpopular. I personally don't believe in cutting tackle on allies and on friends because of political inconvenience. I have a close friend of mine who is a little forgetful, a little ADHD, and is trans, and applied for their passport the day after the election. He still has not gotten his passport back, and he's probably not going to. And he has an upcoming vacation. He actually has his honeymoon upcoming, and does not know that he's going to leave the country. I have a very close friend of mine, an important mentor in my life, who is an older veteran and a trans woman. She transitioned after getting out of the service, and she's been around the block. She knows the kind of existential threats that people can face in their life. She knows what it means when the government comes knocking. And she's facing this with an amount of gravity and seriousness. And I was at dinner with her and my husband said, well, don't worry, like, if it comes down to it, we'll smuggle you into Canada. And she was like, wait, will you smuggle me into Canada? And that's not a joke. There is the concern. There is a bill in Texas that would make representing your new identity as a trans person fraud. It would criminalize you for being trans. There are efforts to potentially claw back existing passports so that they can't leave the country. Yes. It is we talk a lot about existential threats. That is potentially going to be an existential threat. We all know people in our lives who are touched in some way by what is happening. We all know federal workers. I have friends who work in the CFPB. Their job was literally getting banks to pay back people they defrauded. And they were fired. They were fired for doing that job. We all have these stories. That is the compelling story. Don't talk about it in an ambiguous way. Say, oh, my brother, my friend, my best man has been hurt by this. And it's not going to skip over you. It's not going to skip over farmers. It's not going to skip over vets. It's not going to skip over HVAC technicians. You name a job, it will affect you at some point. And that is the story to tell.
One more question for you. In this case, in your capacity as a lawyer as well, I think in the last 48 hours, just in the last 48 hours, I think we have now entered a constitutional crisis. Courts have ruled that planes carrying deportees were to be turned around by the Trump administration. They did not obey the order. And today they deported even more people after a judge ruled that person should not be deported. So now we have the executive branch basically saying to the judicial branch, I'm flipping you the proverbial bird. So if this administration does not obey the orders of the court, what do we have other than a civil war coming up, potentially? I mean, this is where we're at just in the last 48 hours, because if he doesn't obey court orders, where are we? And I'd like to know, as a lawyer, what do you think we can do, or what do you think is going to happen?
I think the answer is we always have to look at what is the other avenue of power that can be exercised here. We have elections this year, right? We have elections at statewide offices and for the General Assembly, of course. Yes, but the thing I want to actually point out is the power of state attorneys general. A state attorney general has the ability to seek injunctions and seek action against the Trump administration. They have the ability, when Virginians are harmed by things that the Trump administration is doing that are illegal, to seek retribution, and to potentially do so using Virginia courts, right, which are a different arm than the federal system. Looking for power in other places has to be a key part of this. What is it? So that's a fair point. So what else do you do? Well, you have state governments that can levy resources. You have state governments that can levy police. There are opportunities for conflicts of powers in a pretty frequent, ubiquitous way. I was talking to a woman who serves a lot of immigrants in my community, in my district that I represent. And he knows some of them probably aren't documented. Doesn't know for certain, but statistically, he expects a lot of them aren't documented. And he had a conversation. He had a conversation with the local law enforcement about what happens if ICE comes knocking. And you know what an answer to that is? They're trespassing. If they don't have the adequate type of warrant, then they are trespassing when they enter that property. When they come into the curtilage, they are trespassing. So what can you do? These are the kind of points of conflict, the points that we can, if we actually think about the power of government boldly, if we are willing to innovate, if we are willing to lean into the crisis of the moment. I'm not going to pretend I have the answer right now of how I'm going to turn a plane in the sky around, but we have resources in other arms of government. That is why every race matters. That's why if you don't know who the Democrat on the ticket for your local board of supervisors is, or if there is one, you should find out. If there isn't one, you should run. If you don't know who's running for your House of Delegates or for your state senate, then you should figure out who they are. You should give them some money because they probably need it. And you should help them get elected. And if there's not one, then you should run. You need to make sure that our Democrats who are running in a primary right now for lieutenant governor, attorney general, and governor win, because that is another arm of power that we can exercise against an authoritarian regime that is trying to choke out democracy. Yeah.
We were asked a few minutes ago how many are veterans in this room, but I want to ask how many women are in this room. Lots of women. And what are they trying to do with our vote?
Take it away.
Take it away.
Say that.
So, in case you don't know, I think everybody in here is pretty well informed, but they are going to the point where if you go to register and you don't have another form of ID, or your other form of ID is maybe your maiden name, because that's how you came into this world. If your last names don't match, you can't vote in some states. Yeah, so you have to have your marriage certificate, you have to have basically have all of your legal documents, have an original of them, and get them and put them in a safe place, because this is what it's going to come down to, unless you know of ways to stop the voting, the squelch on eliminating voting. I mean, you want to take away birthright? Yeah, it's just another form of voter suppression. And we are women and we are strong and we'll fight it, right? Yeah.
So this really isn't a question that I think anybody's going to be able to have an answer to right now, but one thing that I constantly wonder whenever I see movement by the Democratic Party on the federal level is, why is there a glaring lack of strategy? And I say this to your point from earlier, when you were talking about abandoning our trans brothers and sisters. I'm with you. I'm with you on what you feel. Don't get me wrong. I have plenty of friends that are in that community. There's a whole half of this country that doesn't care about how I feel about that. There's a whole half of this country that no matter how much I tell them, they're human beings. They go through the same things as you. They have birthdays. Like, it doesn't matter because they don't like that fundamental idea. Now, what I'm saying is, how come knowing that half the country is going to have a visceral reaction, even if we don't understand it, even if we disagree with it, how come we know that's what they're going to do and we make that the forefront of the message? And this is coming from a person that likes to look at things like civil rights and stuff like that. Like, obviously, people have to speak up for themselves and gain a standing in the community and get the power that they need in order to live their lives in the way that they want. But Could we not just win the election first and then give trans people all of the liberties and rights that they need and deserve? That's what I'm saying. So that's my point. I'm a little.
I'm going to say this really, really quick. It's not a half of the people. Half the country did not vote for Trump. Okay, less than a third voted for Trump.
Half of voters.
And we can do two things. We can support the most marginalized communities, and we can talk about all the other things that people agree with and see or don't see. We do not abandon people that need us because it's politically expedient. And they are the ones that make trans issues an issue. All we said is they are people and they deserve the same rights and protections everyone else has. Just like people of color, just like people with disabilities, just like kids with IEPs. They are the ones that said that we are trying to make them something that we're not. So I think that's really, really important. It seems like that because they did such a good job crushing this community, but that is not the case. That is not the case at all.
I think that's beautifully said. I want to speak a little bit to the question also. And I'm going to answer this in part of the story. Politicians are storytellers. I served in the Navy for a while, right? I served at sea in 2 deployments. My second ship, my captain, you have to give safety briefs all the time in the military. Every time you do something cool, like really badass, you have to first tell everyone all the things you're going to do that make it less badass. And such a compulsion you have in that moment is to say, all right, Captain, so this slide, of course, safety is always a priority. Here's what we're going to do. It is ingrained in you. Safety is always a priority, Captain. And he would snap, no, safety is not a priority. It is a planning consideration. If safety was the priority means it's the number one thing, and we would not go to sea. I say this all because it is easy to talk about things as a priority and then forget what the heck that even means. I think the secret to building a coalition, having a big tent, having people who can win elections and protect those marginal people is figuring out what the main thing is. What is the priority? Because it's not safety, right? We're not going to stay in court. We're going to go out there and win elections. So what does that mean? And I think this is where, when you say that it feels like there's no leadership in the Democratic Party, this is what we're talking to. We have different understandings of what the main thing is. I believe the main thing is that our country, working class people in this country, and I'm not saying middle class, I'm saying working class people in this country are having the books run on them by corporations, and the government is not stepping in to do anything about it. That is the main thing. That is a message I think we all believe in. That is a message I think at least half of all Republicans believe in. And that is what the Democratic Party is about. That's why our mascot's a frickin' donkey, right? Because that is the animal of the working man. That is the creature that pulls the plow. That is the creature that works. While the elephant sits there and collects capital and goes to the bank and cashes his dividends and, buys and sells property. That's what the elephant does. And we're up here working. That has to be the central tentpole. And from that, I think all our other conclusions fall naturally. If you are a party of the working class, if you are a party that opposes the powerful, then you are a party that supports trans people. I don't even have to say that. And you should be able to figure that out from the fact that I am willing to stand up for the working class, that I am willing to stand up against the powerful. That should be the natural conclusion. You don't need to know that I'm a civil rights attorney, that I sue racists who discriminate against black people for a living. That's my job. You don't need to know that. You should be able to assume that I am opposed to racists, I am opposed to landlords that extort their tenants because I stand for the working class. This is all about figuring out what the identity of the Democratic Party is, and we have forgotten that. We have forgotten what the identity of the Democratic Party is. The identity of the Democratic Party is standing up to the powerful. It is standing up to millionaires and billionaires who want to keep the working class down.
I was listening to Schiff's book online or audio on the way down here, and he said the Democratic Party has just assumed that most people knew that they were supporting them, so they didn't say it out loud enough times. They didn't repeat it. They didn't say it, because they just assumed people would get it. And, you know, they don't get it. You have to say it and say it and say it and say it.
What is the biggest grift the Republican Party has pulled in the last decade?
Billionaires support the working man.
It is convincing people that them, the party of billionaires, are in favor of the working class. And how did they get there? How did they get there? They lie, they do that. But what they say over and over is that we're against liberal elites. We're against Hollywood. And maybe they are. Maybe they're against liberal elites. I'm kind of elite. I got a law degree. I'm liberal. Maybe they're against me. And we assume, people assume, because the thing you're against is so much more salient. It is so much more present in front of mind, the thing you're in favor of. So their constituency has come to assume that they must be in favor of me, because they're against them. Right? So I think part of the secret to make sure that people understand what we're for is talking loudly with our chests about what we're against. I am against a government that is run by Wall Street and by Silicon Valley and by K Street. And we need to say that loudly. Yes, with our money, both boycotts and donations to politicians, because it takes money to run their office. It sucks, but it does.
We got a question back here and down up front.
Hello, everyone. I'm one of the unicorns here that are affected by the SAVE Act. I took my wife's last name, so I'm in with y'all. I want to give a little impact statement here. I am the food pantry manager, the food program manager for Congressional Cares. This defunding impacts a lot more than just Goochland Cares. Goochland Cares, we serve 375 Goochland families a week, but we are not the only ones in the community. I mean, you've got the Louisa Food Bank, they're pretty large, but you have dozens and dozens and dozens of small, faith-based food pantries that feed people out in the far reaches that can't get to the large food pantries like we are. Feed More, which is our local Richmond food bank, they're the ones that are going to lose the funding. But that trickles down to us. It trickles down to those faith-based food pantries, because what happens is those small food pantries can't afford to buy that fresh produce. And that money allowed Feed More to purchase food from farmers, which then is given to these small food pantries. And what's happening is it's not just hurting the people that are receiving the foods, it's hurting the farmers that have been contracted to provide that food for us. So I'm just letting you all know, like, to me, it's not an abstract thing. I can see when I go and look at what Feed More can provide to us from week to week, and I see it go down, which I'm expecting to see, that fresh produce is not available. We as a larger food pantry might be able to find other sources, but these smaller food pantries are really going to be hit hard, and it's going to affect people in your community.
Hi, so I did work at a respite care in Chesterfield, Virginia, and actually, like, soon after the election, we will actually, our respite care program, caring for people with disabilities, many who don't have the voice to speak, was completely shut down. All of us employees, many of whom, like myself, I have autism. One of my coworkers, for instance, has a visual disability. Some of my co-workers were trans, were let go and told reapply. They are still not giving a clear answer as to when they were open to take care of these families in the community that come from all over Virginia. And when I questioned them, when me and my coworker asked questions, we were basically told, don't come back to this company, stop talking to your coworkers. so they tried to scare us into silence and all, and filed a bunch of their workers who I think were all standing up. So yeah, this is just one of the things that's happening, but the clients I saw, many did not have a physical voice to be able to advocate for themselves, and we were caring for them while the higher ups at the companies, like the elephants, were just getting whips off of us. They didn't even know their names.
Thank you.
I think both of these, I think there's two things to highlight out of this that are, again, things to have in these conversations with your neighbors. First is, even if you are one of these people who does think, maybe quite seriously, that the government should be shrunk radically, you want the government to actually do 50% less than what it's doing, we can agree that the amount of uncertainty, chaos, and inconsistency with which this is being executed is horrible. It is not clear, moment to moment, what is going to be stopped, who is going to be fired, what the status of any individual worker, what the status of any individual grant is. You know, I had a very serious, immediate day one question for our chief financial officer in the county when the federal grant freeze went into effect, and the answer was, we don't know. I work at a nonprofit, and the answer was, we don't know. We don't know if our grants are going to be funded. We don't know if we're going to get the support we need to stay open. Later, a full half of the federal grants that support housing discrimination work were canceled. We still don't know why those ones were selected, but it was just random, chaotic, and arbitrary. So that's the one thing I want to emphasize. No matter how dyed red in the wool the person you're talking to is, you can sell them on the fact that this is chaotic. This is not how this should be going down. It creates uncertainty. It hurts people in the way it's done. And the other thing is, the people who are going to be affected are not always who you expect. It is going to be church groups. It is going to be farmers. It is going to be your disabled cousins who receive specialized care. It is going to be your grandmother who is going to try and get assistance with a disability issue she's having with her home, and suddenly that nonprofit doesn't exist anymore. The depth of the penetration is sincere. My husband's not here with me today because he's working on a Sunday. My husband's a priest. He's an Episcopal priest. And he works in the Diocese of Virginia. And the Diocese of Virginia, the Episcopal Diocese, actually the nationwide diocese, has had to shut down their refugee resettlement program. This is a massive ministry that the Episcopal Church did, taking refugees who are sent to America, people who are here legally, and helping them settle in a home, helping them find a church community. The entire thing was canceled. The entire program nationwide was canceled because of this decision by the Trump administration. I don't think you would believe me 3 years ago saying Trump is going to take millions of dollars out of churches and he's going to make it so that we're just not functioning a core part of refugee management. But that is what we're doing. That's the kind of chaos.
Are you already finding buyer's remorse when you can't miss this 5th district? No, seriously. I mean, you talk, I'm sure you knock on the door if you know if they're Republican or Democrat. How many times have you knocked on the door of a Republican and we're saying, I wasn't expecting this?
I will be honest, I don't think it's hit again. I don't want to give anyone false hope. And the depth, oh goodness. The depth of the media misinformation ecosystem is intense. It is intense and severe.
We've been telling stories, and this is my neighbor as well. And one of my favorite stories deals with the Emperor's clothes. And, just for decency's sake, but so we'll be when Jen delivers all these postcards, maybe we'll deliver his doppelganger here. But this is probably a good time to, I know a lot of folks have had to get going, but to thank Michael for coming out. We didn't really get any prep time for this. We just said you wouldn't mind answering a few questions if you had a chance. But I think you've got a knack for that. That's good. It's really exciting today to look around, and this is not an event put on by any one group, or it's not just an event put on by Democrats, but I look around and I see Louisa and Buckingham and Powhatan and Rango. We have some photographers here, Louisa, Cumberland. Anyway, it's really neat to see all of our neighbors together, and I think we'll do more. Oh, I'm sorry, Savannah. Yes. So, but it's really exciting to see folks from all over the area, not just the 5th, but the 56th, and again, and also supporting some of these even more local races that don't necessarily cover all of us. Jen, did you want to?
Oh, I was just gonna say it's what time is it? It's 4:30. It's hot in here. I understand that. If everybody's up for unless anybody has something else they need to say. First of all, is this working? I don't know. Is this working? Yeah. So what can I do is right there. That's stuff to do, right? There's all kinds of great information all around here. You need to volunteer, make sure you're registered, make sure you're able to vote with the ID that you have, super duper important. Reach out to your local Democratic committee or to 5051. If you like to protest and march, 5051 is the place to go. Indivisible is great. There are all kinds of organizations. The Common Defense Vote Vets, over there, super duper important. Your local library, check out your local library, see how they're under attack. Your teachers, support them, tell them you love them, you appreciate them. Join your local NAACP. If you are not a member, join. NAACP is fighting for voting rights and all rights for such a long time, and they have a great agenda. They have legislative agendas. They explain so much of what is going on. Volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. Every day, maybe wake up and find something that you can do, and then also take some time for yourself so you don't lose your friggin' mind. Yeah, and there's so I think I'm gonna release people because you've been sitting here for a long time. Get up and mill around, find some people. If you need resources, come to us, ask them. This is Alswin, she's from Henrico. We have Henrico, we just said, we have a ton of chairs here. We also have a postcard event that I'm gonna tell you if you live in Goochland.